these games. It's a monstrous slate, House. I got to start with the game that, to me, is probably a Super Bowl preview. Not a given. A lot can happen between now and the month of February down in New Orleans. But Buffalo and Detroit are certainly two teams that can win the whole thing. Detroit had their emotional win. Defense beat up. Campbell aggressive. They find a way to beat Green Bay last week. Buffalo, Josh Allen couldn't have done any more, but they lost the game. Now, as far as who this game means more to, it's not even close if you're going to handicap it that way. This game means significantly more for Detroit than it does Buffalo. I know you can paint the picture, Buffalo, 1 seed, all that. That's going to be asking a lot for them over the final 4 weeks. Detroit having home field advantage, I think, is a must for them if they're going to go and get to the Super Bowl. Here's the line. Detroit is up to a 2.5-point favorite in this game. Concerns with Buffalo's defense. Concerns with Detroit's defense. Allen's played well against them. House, I'll start with you. Buff, Detroit, who you got?
I feel like this one is razor thin, and I have it in the same class, the same category as the Thursday night matchup against Green Bay, which was also an excellent football game with two of the greatest, strategic and sort of conception-wise, the schemes that both Matt LaFleur and Dan Campbell and their staffs show up with. Now, I don't think we have the same kind of matchup here because Sean McDermott is relentless. He makes the wrong decision when it's game-winning time. There's enough evidence out there. We watched it once again this most recent Sunday. So there's a couple areas where I feel like Detroit has an advantage. I do think they're going to be able to establish the run. I do think that, Buffalo up front, their defensive front seven can get pushed around a little bit by this Detroit offensive line. And I think special teams wise, we watch really the difference in that game against the Rams was the special teams mess up. What we've seen out of Detroit is a level of discipline and execution, especially when it's game-winning time. Dan Campbell is making the right call and also getting the results out of the right call. So another razor-thin kind of situation, but my inclination is to go ahead and lay it with Detroit.
Yeah, I think House is on the money with this. And look, you look at the Detroit Lions and just how they performed this year. I have them the number one ranked power ranked team in the NFL this year. And I actually make this line closer to 4 than 2.5. So I'm seeing a small edge on the Detroit Lions. And, last week was very concerning for the Bills. Look, we talk about Super Bowl contenders. Does anybody have a good defense? Because last week, the Rams just marched up and down the field doing whatever they wanted. And you look at the Rams, one of their biggest struggles all year was that they could not convert third downs. They were converting 25% of their third downs. Well, last week, they converted 11 out of 15 third downs. They had 457 total yards, 320 in the air, and 137 on the ground. And we know that this Lions team, even though the defense isn't very good, they have one of the best offensive lines in the league. They push you around, and they can play ball control. They can take the ball out of Josh Allen's hands, and they also can throw the ball. So I think this is actually going to be a higher scoring game. I mean, when I look at my model, I actually have this around 57. So yeah, it's crazy because you're seeing 54.5 in the market right now, and I think this line was 53 earlier this week. So it just feels like you can't make this total high enough. So 54 is key, 51 is also key, but I think they're going to fly over this total. So that's how I'll be playing this. I don't really want to play a side, even though I do show a small edge on the Detroit Lions. It's tough to go against Josh Allen the way he's playing on the MVP level. So I think you just, you buy the offenses in this game.
I think there will be a ton of points. I'm right there with you, Raheem. I hate the idea of backing a narrative in which Josh Allen loses consecutive games, which doesn't happen particularly often. It did happen earlier this year, though, might I add, with Baltimore and then again against the Houston Texans. I think it's happening this week. I think for a couple of different reasons. The sense of desperation for Detroit, the extra rest for Detroit, knowing now the defections they have on defense, another week to get a little bit more comfortable with that. And they have just been a powerhouse in that building. I'm going to lay the 2.5. I'm with you. I think there will be a ton of points in the game. I'm taking the Lions, who need it that much more than the Bills. They find a way to get it done.